we have reached the point where resistance is genuinely needed, where we have a class of people amongst us in our communities who are being targeted and assaulted by the US government. We cannot simply stand by and do nothing. Joining us now is rather interestingly another member of General Strike US. This one from Washington goes by the name of Kimberly. Kimberly, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and I'm pleased to have somebody here who's actually organizing to get this stuff done. I talk about it a lot, but boy, a
we
plan is
need
well.
somebody to talk about it. So
What is La Marcha De La Puebla, and when is it happening?
yeah, so La Marcha, it's an event. It's actually a coalition based event that's happening on August 1st. We're going to have ours here in Seattle at Cal Anderson Park. There's about, the last I heard, there's 10 other states doing this, 10 other states with General Strike chapters who decided to join in. It originally started with Cesar down in California. He organizes down there with a group that he actually started while he was, I think, in college. And it's basically like a youth-led activist group. And so he proposed it to the General Strike chapter facilitators, and yeah, here we are. August 1st at Cal Anderson Park in Seattle.
Perfect. So that's the Seattle branch. Now, if I understand correctly, this is hoping to become a 50-state initiative. Is that right?
Yeah. I think General Strike is actually established. We have established chapters in most of the states, not all 50 states, but most of the states. And then whichever chapters felt like they had the capacity to have this event in solidarity, they're definitely taking it on. I think from Maine to New Mexico, we have at least 10 chapters who are doing it, if not more.
Is there a way that somebody with no affiliation with you before this moment can check to see if there is an event in their state? And if there is none, is there a way they can sign up to host one?
Yeah, so we can actually, if you hop on to the General Strike US website, you just do generalstrikeus.com. It'll take you to our national website. And then there are contact information. There's contact information on there. I think the best way to get in touch with your state would be to get on Discord. We have our national chat on Discord. When you enter the chat, it'll ask you what state you're from, and all of that, and then it'll pop you into the chat for your state. That's actually how I got started with General Strike US. And then you can see from there like what they're doing in your state with General Strike US.
So what are you asking for from the audience? What will help make this happen?
This is like my first like huge organizing effort in terms of like an event. Didn't realize how, I mean, like I knew I was like trying to form coalitions and stuff with Evergreen Resistance and 5051 here in Washington State, and trying to help them with like previous big like protests that they've organized, and they have like entire teams who do this, right? Well, when I talked about this event with Cesar, I was like, okay, like, let me just start with the groundwork and figure it out, right? So the permits itself, like, it took me 14 hours to apply for all the permits. Like, you start with like, the bureaucracy is insane. Like, you start with like the city permit, and then the city permit tells you have to apply for 3 more permits, and you have to do, so all the permits cost money. All of the stuff that we need to get for the event costs money. So for here in Seattle at Cal Anderson Park, what we're planning to do is we're basically going to have like a culture festival or celebration of culture. And Cal Anderson Park, there's 4 streets around the park, and we're going to shut down those 4 streets, and people are going to be able to march around the park. And then we're going to have the PA system in the center where we're going to do like cultural music and stuff, and we're going to have speakers and all that. And then we're going to have spaces for people to set up for a picnic. We're going to have up to 16 food truck vendors around the park. And art making stations so that people can like mingle, make signs together and all of that. And with that, organizing that, you have to, if you're going to have like vendors, you have to have like portable water so that they can wash their hands and stuff, and sanitation. And you have to like rent or like trash waste companies to like come and dispose of your trash after the event. Porta potties, which I'm gonna try to get around because they're really expensive. And I wrote it into the budget, but it seems like everything else is becoming so expensive that I might need to fix things. But yeah, so I started a GoFundMe for this event. The first goal is like $1,500 that pays for just the permits, the insurance, the generator for power, and the PA system. Those are like,
pause there for a second.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Americans watching, she's saying she wants to put on an event to fight government corruption, and the minimum price to put it on, as in for the permits and the basic necessities, is $1,500. There is 34 people watching currently. One hopes 10 million watching later. If we can't find $1,500, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah, thank you.
What's tier 2?
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, so that's just like basic necessities, and then you have to get like insurance and all of that stuff. But I have the spreadsheets. I have everything kind of broken down. Gonna start with paying for the necessities like the permits, the insurance, the generator, the PA system. And then we're gonna go out into the community and ask for in-kind donations like the art supplies for the art station. And I'll be going on Monday to go and talk to vendors around Seattle to see if they could come. Really, for the vendors, we are going to ask for them to just have their permit and everything taken care of on their end, so that we don't have to stress about that. And then they get to keep their profits.
What strikes me so much about this is I would assume that it either costs nothing, in which case, unpleasantly surprised to find out, no, you do need permits. You do need various paid for permissions. Or I would have expected it to cost tens of thousands of dollars per event. And this is a relatively, I think, achievable goal, especially by the date I believe is August 1st. So we probably need to have that money in place before August 1st, because that's when the event is.
Yes.
So let's knock a week off of that, gang.
Yeah.
$1,500. Where do they go to do that?
That would be on our GoFundMe. It'll be a really great event, and really like what we're wanting to do is to show people that we're united. $1,500 is like the bare necessities. We're hoping to raise like $3,100 so that we can get the porta potties out there, and we can do more in terms of like for the safety team and stuff. Like there's a lot of like other logistical things that we're trying to take care of, like in-kind donation wise.
What will having a big crowd of people there do, in your estimation?
Yeah, well, like a strong turnout shows us that like immigrants are not alone, and that like we as a community are standing with immigrants against like all this scapegoating and criminalization of people who have never done anything bad. Like just and the fact that like and that we don't stand for people just disappearing off our streets, parents being ripped away from their kids, and their kids just being left alone in the middle of the street by ICE. So a large turnout would show that we all stand in solidarity of that, and there's no like gray area.
What would the speaker system, for example, be used for?
Yeah, so we for the permit, you have to like submit a whole like program for them so that they know that we're not going to be speaking like outside of like quiet or inside of quiet. Or we're going to be speaking outside of quiet hours. Sorry. And so we're going to be playing some cultural music throughout the day. So that it could be, you know, really good vibes. People can mingle and have that in the background.
Yeah.
We're reaching out to groups who might want to have some speakers there to kind of rally. And then also something that I'm going to do is we're compiling a list of people who have been, it's by no way exhaustive because this is like, it's just such a long list. But we're going to just tell some stories about people who have been disappeared by ICE, names, people who have passed away in the detention centers, when they disappeared, and all of that.
Who doesn't want this march to happen?
Well, our administration, anybody who is okay with the status quo, anybody who is buying into this like criminalization and dehumanization of people who belong here. A lot having to do with the administration, people in power right now who want to silence freedom of speech, who want to really like separate all of us, right? Mm-hmm. They're like turning us all against each other so that we can be fighting with each other rather than paying attention to like what's actually happening right now in our government. Anybody who profits off of this kind of, so anybody who profits being detention centers that are opening up that are profiting those private companies who provide like the products that you use in prisons, right? Like anybody who's making a monetary profit, anybody who's making a social profit, like by, you know, standing on other people's backs.
I think that's a sad but astute point, that the prisons themselves, where these kidnapped victims will be stored,
mm-hmm.
They're the business end of this, literally. They're the folks who make money off innocents in chains. And when our grandchildren are looking back at this era, it will be so clear who the villains were, and it will be those people and the people that assisted them. Yep. And it will, perhaps on a more alarming level, if you are the sort of person who likes to listen a lot and never act, the people who did nothing will be counted amongst the villains. Because at this point in history, we can't pretend not to know what this is.
No.
Why is it that I have reached out to several, I think it would be safe to say several dozen organizations, and the only one that regularly gets involved with these events, organizes these events, responds to communications to talk about these events, has no centralized leadership? It's General Strike US. It's you guys again and again and again.
Yeah.
Why? What? You're a member. You're the most qualified I can get.
Honestly, I think it's because we're decentralized. There's not just one person that's making all the decisions. So like, for example, my chapter, there's a few facilitators, and the facilitators aren't like leaders or anybody who makes like the final decisions per se. They are people who provide resources and help anybody else who wants to do something in their communities. We help them to do that organizing, and to create those like structures, or, you know, like somebody in our group wanted to do like a food waste diversion program, to divert food that would go into the trash from the grocery stores, divert that to like food banks and such, right? So we did that. We came up with the plan together on how we can organize that. And that's all decentralization. There's no, if anybody wants to do anything, they can do it in the group. And yeah, I think that is really helpful because you don't have just like one person that you have to wait in line to talk to.
Yeah.
And also you have a lot more people who are willing to like hop in and, take over to help out. And then when they get tired, somebody else hops in,
Underappreciated. I
yeah.
have never been a part of anything that experienced more burnout than Americans interested in decency. Any movement related to that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
burnout is real, but it
Mhm.
makes a huge difference when there's somebody else there to pick up the baton.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm sure you said, but I missed it. How long have you been associated with General Strike US?
Yeah, I haven't said it, but I started with General Strike in February. It's funny because I actually, so I
Less
was
than a year, and you're
less
organizing
than
an
a
event.
year. Yeah, less than a year. And I just like, I was like, okay, we need to do a general strike, right? And so I just printed out like a to-do list of things that I needed to do that. And then I showed up at a Tesla takedown protest, was passing out these flyers, and people were like, "Oh, are you associated with General Strike US?" And I was like, "No." So they gave me the Discord, and then I hop into the Discord, and I'm put into like the Washington State chapter, and I'm like messaging everyone in there. I'm like, "Hey, like I'm trying to organize a general strike. Who wants to help?" And they're probably like, "Okay, lady, like we're all here to organize a general strike, right?"
You're trying.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
guess what? You
yeah,
did.
yeah. And so we started the Washington State's like Discord server, and then lo and behold, actually the national server they were actually working on something called Operation Starfish, which was to decentralize the movement even more. So that's when we started our state chapters. So a few months ago, all of the states who had like a bunch of activists who were like actively coordinating, actively, you know, actively doing stuff. They opened up their state servers, and then we sent emails to everybody who had signed the strike card, put in their email and their zip code. And then we sent them all to their servers, their respective chapters. And then so we've been organizing in our like state chapters ever since.
Do you have a message for somebody who sees the injustices out there in America now and wants to change them? What should they do?
Just keep going. I think that's my biggest message because there's a lot of us. I noticed, okay, so when I first opened up this server, a lot, like I had, I think 200 members in there, and I was reaching out to every one of them like personally, and while doing like other stuff on the side. And I was like, hey, like at what level do you want to be involved? And most people wanting to get involved right now have never organized before. And I'm just like, that's fine. There's like so much to do, right? Because the point of the
A
general
good
strike,
sign, really.
huh?
That's a good sign,
Oh,
really. You've got
absolutely.
the interest of people that weren't interested before.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's amazing to see like how many people have like really jumped in and really want to do something, and just know that like you have a part like in this movement, because what we're doing right now, because we've never had a general strike here in the US. Other countries have had it time like over and over again, and a lot of other countries are like, "What are you guys doing over there in America right
Not
now?"
in this century. In the
Not
early
yeah.
1900s, we had
Yes.
an
Yeah.
approximate, but yeah.
Yeah, not in this century, but um but we don't have the systems in place to really sustain a general strike the way that we need to. It can't just be a one-day general strike. It has to be day after day, maybe weeks, maybe months they they buckle and ask us what we want, right? And so there's so much to do leading up to the movement. A lot of a lot of it is just community building. So like if you've never organized before, that's fine. Go and volunteer, you know, at your local food bank. Go and volunteer at shelters or anywhere where we're gonna need to make sure that our basic needs are the organizations that provide basic needs, that they're set and they're ready, you know. And then that's what we're doing to work up to that point, right? So and
let's pause there actually and zoom in. You said volunteer at like a community shelter, so you're helping unhoused folks.
Yeah.
How does that translate to fighting government oppression? Connect those dots.
Yeah, I mean, because government oppression is not paying people livable wages so that they can pay their rent. Government oppression is not having rent caps, allowing corporations to take over, gentrify people from the cities, put them on the streets, and you know, backing the corporations that do it.
And presumably, if you're working there, you have a sense of the need in the area. You meet a network of people who are able to distribute food. You see how food is distributed. You see how it's stored. You see what food is needed. You develop the practical skills, it might seem. Like, what percentage of these folks who are willing to work at a shelter or a food distribution center, what percentage do you reckon, just based on vibes, would be willing to join a general strike or assist in one?
Oh gosh, most of them.
Higher than average? Most?
Yeah,
okay.
Most. Yeah. Because they see what's going on. They see people, it's just so the system is so unfair, and they see that every day, and they know that where we are right now is not sustainable and it needs to change. And most people who, you know, I've gone around, knocked door to door, giving out flyers for general strike. I've gone to protests, given out flyers. Most people are like, we need this. Yes, we need this. And even more so now, my partner was actually scrolling Substack the other day, and everybody in the comments is like, we need to strike. We need to strike. We need to strike. So people are really ready. Like, and really that's what we need, right? I reached out to a group called Money Out of Politics. Have you heard of them?
Oh, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, like, let's make a coalition because we need to repeal Citizens United. And how are we going to get that? Through a general strike? Because you tell me, how else are we going to get that?
I mean, all right. Yeah. I'll flex my nerd muscles, because both Citizens United and Buckley v. Vallejo will require some manner of constitutional amendment. That means we're going to have to get more people on board than we traditionally would, just based on the facts. They're going to need motivation beyond that. That might just be workers flexing their power.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for teeing that up. Ooh, I'm salivating. So they were people interested in getting big money out of politics actually were able on their own to make the connection to withhold our labor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Since then, there has been like a bigger movement to really connect Money Out of Politics and general strike. They're really trying to make a bigger coalition out of us.
Farmers used to tell me, and accurately, hey, you folks in the city wouldn't literally last a week if we stopped doing our job. This is the same thing on a countrywide scale. This is, we all experienced COVID. We all remember who got deemed essential, but not apparently essential enough to provide health care for, not essential enough to provide a living wage. Just have to go to work. Can't sleep in. That's the only thing. Kimberly, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for arranging this. Can you tell folks one more time, where should they go?
Yes, please visit our GoFundMe site. It's called La Marcha De La Puebla. Please donate. And if you're in Washington, Seattle, please come. It'll be really fun, I hope. And a big turnout is better so that we can really show people that we're united.
Get them. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. I will inevitably, I suspect, see you and folks from your organizations a lot more in the near future. And, keep up the good work, my friend.
Thank you. Great talking to you. Bye, everyone.
fantastic interview. Guest. Yeah, the whole thing was fantastic. I'll take it.